He found her just before dusk, when the light turns the road the color of old gold, and even familiar places feel uncertain. The rancher had been riding the fence line, fixing a post knocked loose by last night's storm, when he saw the wagon stop near the cottonwoods. One wheel was tilted wrong, half sunk in the mud, and beside it stood a woman trying and failing to lift it back into place. She was thin in the way hunger makes you thin, not illness. Her dress was torn at the hem, soaked dark with rain. A small boy sat on the wagon seat, clutching a cloth bundle to his chest like it was the only thing anchoring him to the world. The rancher dismounted without thinking. "You'll hurt yourself," he said gently. The woman startled, eyes flashing with instinctive fear, then softened when she saw his open hands. "I just need to get it moving," she said. "We won't be any trouble." He nodded as if she'd said something reasonable. "Let me take a look." It took him 10 minutes to free the wheel and brace it well enough to roll. He said little while he worked. Years on the land had taught him that silence often helped more than questions. When he finished, he wiped his hands on his trousers and stepped back. "You can make it to town before dark now." The woman hesitated. "Town costs money." The boy leaned forward then, peering at the rancher with eyes too serious for his age. "Mama," he whispered, not quietly at all, "is he nice?" She flinched, embarrassed. "Eli." The rancher smiled, small and careful. "I try to be." The boy studied him another moment. "Do you live here?" "Yes." "Is it lonely?" The question landed heavier than expected. The rancher cleared his throat. "Sometimes." The woman shifted her weight, clearly torn between pride and need. "We'll move along," she said quickly. "Thank you for the help." He nodded again, but his gaze drifted to the sky. The clouds were gathering fast, thick and low. Another storm. "You won't make it far before the rain," he said. "There's a bunkhouse on my land, empty. You can stay the night." Her eyes widened. "We couldn't." "It's just a roof," he replied. "Doesn't cost anything." The boy's face lit up with sudden hope, the kind that breaks your heart a little. "Mama, a roof." She swallowed. "Just one night," she said softly. "We won't impose." That night turned into 2. The rain didn't stop. Roads flooded. The wagon axle cracked beyond a simple fix. The rancher brought tools, then wood, then food, always leaving it at the door as if afraid to intrude. On the 3rd morning, he found the boy outside, sitting on the steps, kicking his heels against the wood. "You're up early," the rancher said. The boy shrugged. "Mama's sewing. She gets quiet when she's worried." The rancher sat beside him. The silence between them wasn't awkward. After a while, the boy asked, "Why do you help us?" The rancher thought about it. "Because someone once helped me." The boy nodded, satisfied. Then he asked the question that would change everything. "Are you staying forever?" The rancher laughed softly. "I already live here." The boy shook his head. "No, I mean with us." The words hung there, simple and devastating. The woman stepped into the doorway just in time to hear them. Color drained from her face. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "He shouldn't." "It's all right," the rancher said, standing. He looked at her then, really looked. The exhaustion, the quiet strength, the way she kept one hand lightly on her son's shoulder as if afraid he might disappear. "I don't mean to overstay," she added, "as soon as the road clears." "You can stay longer," he said before thinking it through. She blinked. "We don't have." "You have enough," he replied. "You take care of each other, that counts." Days turned into weeks. The boy learned the land faster than anyone expected. He followed the rancher everywhere, asking questions about horses and fences and stars. At night, laughter returned to the bunkhouse, thin at first, then stronger. The woman cooked when she could, fixed clothes, helped mend what needed mending. She never assumed, never demanded, and somehow that made her presence feel earned. One evening, she stood beside the rancher on the porch, watching her son chase fireflies. "He hasn't laughed like this in a long time," she said quietly. The rancher nodded. "Neither have I." She turned to him, eyes shining with gratitude and something like fear. "We won't take advantage of your kindness." He met her gaze. "I know." The boy ran back then, breathless, joy spilling out of him. He stopped between them, taking each of their hands without asking. "Are you staying forever now?" he asked again. The rancher looked at the woman. She didn't answer with words. She answered by not pulling her hand away. He squeezed the boy's fingers gently. "I think," he said slowly, "we already are." And for the first time in years, the ranch didn't feel like a place he worked to survive. It felt like home. Morning came softer after that, as if the land itself had decided not to rush them. The rancher woke before dawn out of habit, but this time there was a different sound drifting through the open window, quiet humming. Not a song he knew, but steady, warm, the kind meant to keep fear away. It took him a moment to realize it was coming from the kitchen. She was already up. She stood at the old stove, sleeves rolled, hair loosely tied back, stirring a pot with careful attention, like she was afraid of breaking something fragile. Eli sat at the table, feet dangling, drawing shapes in the dust with a stick. She turned when she sensed him, a little startled. "I hope you don't mind. I used what was left from yesterday." He shook his head. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," she replied simply. That was the thing about her. She never asked permission to be useful, she just was. They ate together, the three of them, the silence comfortable. Eli talked about a horse he wanted to name Thunder, even though the horse clearly belonged to someone else. The rancher found himself laughing more than he had in years. After breakfast, the rancher took Eli out to check the fences. The boy tried to act grown, asking serious questions, mimicking the way the rancher walked. Halfway through, he grew quiet. "Can I ask something?" Eli said. "Always." "Why don't you have a family?" The rancher stopped by the fence post, eyes on the open land. "I did, a long time ago." Eli waited, sensing where the line was. "I thought if I stayed alone long enough," the rancher continued, "the hurt would wear out." "Did it?" Eli asked. He smiled sadly. "No, but some days it gets lighter." Eli nodded like he understood more than a child should. "Mama says hurt doesn't leave. It just needs company." The words hit deeper than expected. That afternoon, the woman found the rancher fixing a saddle strap. She stood nearby, unsure. "Eli talks a lot," she said quietly, "sometimes too much." "He talks just right," the rancher replied. She exhaled, relieved. Then her voice trembled just slightly. "He's lost people before. When he asks if someone is staying forever, he's really asking if they're leaving." The rancher set the saddle aside and met her eyes. "I won't disappear." She looked down, gripping her hands together. "I've learned not to believe promises." "I'm not making one," he said gently. "I'm making space." That night a cold wind rolled in. Eli woke from a bad dream, crying out. Before the woman could reach him, the rancher was already at the door, lantern in hand. "I thought I heard." Eli ran to him without hesitation, arms wrapping tight around his waist. The rancher froze for a second, then rested a hand on the boy's back. "It's all right," he said softly. "You're safe." The woman watched from the doorway, tears slipping down her face without sound. Days passed, then more. The town noticed. At first they whispered, "Who was the woman? Why was a stranger's child running around the ranch? Why did the place feel different?" Then winter came early, a bad one. When supplies ran low in town, the rancher opened his stores. When a neighbor fell ill, she sat by their bed through the night. When a barn burned down, Eli ran door to door warning people until help arrived. The town stopped whispering. One evening, as snow fell thick and quiet, The rancher found the woman standing alone by the fence, staring out at the land. "You could still leave," he said gently, "when the road's clear." She nodded, "I know." "But you're not going to," he added. She smiled faintly, "No." "Why?" She turned to him, eyes steady now. "Because this is the first place that didn't ask us to prove we deserve to stay." Inside, Eli slept peacefully by the fire, one hand clutching the rancher's old coat. The rancher looked at the woman, then at the home behind them. "Then stay," he said, "not as guests." She swallowed hard. "As what?" He took a slow breath, feeling something he hadn't felt in years, not fear, not loneliness, but hope that didn't hurt. "As family." She didn't answer right away. She simply stepped closer and rested her head briefly against his shoulder. That was answer enough. And from that night on, when Eli asked, "Are you staying forever?" no one hesitated anymore. Because forever, it turned out, wasn't a promise. It was a choice they kept making. Every morning. Together. Spring arrived the way forgiveness does, quietly, without announcement, almost shy about it. The snow melted into the soil and green pushed through ground everyone had thought was done for. The rancher noticed it first along the eastern fence line, where the land had always struggled. This year, it didn't. Eli noticed too. "It's like it waited," he said, crouching low, fingers brushing new grass. "Like it knew we weren't leaving." The woman, her name was Mara, he'd finally learned one evening when she trusted the sound of it spoken aloud, watched them from the porch. She still moved carefully through happiness, like someone crossing thin ice. But there was strength in her now, less flinch in her shoulders, more breath in her chest. The rancher began teaching Eli things that couldn't be written down. How to listen to a horse before touching it. How to read clouds instead of clocks. How to know when to speak, and when silence was doing the work for you. Mara took over the garden, expanded it, made it flourish. She never asked permission. She just brought life where there had been empty space. One afternoon, a man from town rode up unannounced. The rancher recognized him immediately, Samuel Price, a talker, a question asker, the kind who thought kindness always came with an angle. "I hear you've taken in strays," Samuel said with a half-smile. Eli stiffened beside the rancher. "They're family," the rancher replied evenly. Samuel raised a brow. "People are starting to wonder how long that'll last." Mara stepped onto the porch then, wiping her hands on her apron. She didn't say a word. She just met Samuel's gaze without apology. Samuel cleared his throat. "Town council's concerned, papers, legitimacy." The rancher nodded slowly. "Then they can come talk to me." "They might," Samuel said, "soon." That night Eli couldn't sleep. "What if they make us go?" he asked from the doorway, small voice too heavy for such a small body. The rancher set aside his work and opened his arms. Eli crossed the room and climbed into them like it was the most natural thing in the world. "No one's taking you anywhere," the rancher said quietly. "But what if they try?" The rancher rested his chin on the boy's hair. "Then they'll have to go through me." Mara watched from the bed, fear flickering, then fading. She believed him. The council did come. 3 men, papers, concern disguised as civility. The rancher listened, didn't argue, didn't raise his voice. Then he spoke. "This land is mine. That child is under my protection. That woman is here by choice. You don't need to understand it, you only need to respect it." One of the men scoffed, "And if we do?" The rancher stepped forward just enough to remind them what kind of man he was. "Then you'll be remembered as the ones who tried." They left without another word. That evening, Mara found the rancher sitting alone by the fence, staring out at the dark. "You didn't have to do that," she said softly. "I wanted to," he replied. She hesitated, then spoke the truth she'd been holding back. "I've been running for so long that staying still feels dangerous." He nodded. You don't have to be brave all at once. She took a step closer. What if I fail at this, at being family? He looked at her then, really looked. So will I. She laughed quietly, relief not humor. Later that night, Eli came to them both sleepy-eyed. I had a dream, he murmured. We were all old and the house was bigger and there were more people. Mara smiled. That sounds like a good dream. Eli yawned. It felt safe. The rancher lifted him easily, like he'd done it 1,000 times before. That's how you know it's real. As the seasons turned, the ranch became known not just for its land, but for its light. Travelers stayed longer. Neighbors came more often. Laughter lived there now, not just work. And one quiet evening, as the sun burned low and gold across the fields, Mara took the rancher's hand. I don't feel like a stranger anymore, she said. He squeezed her fingers. Neither do I. Somewhere behind them, Eli's voice rang out bright and certain. Hey, are you both staying forever? They didn't answer right away. They didn't need to. They just stood there. 3 shadows stretching long across the land. Not separate. Not afraid. Finally home,